In order to efficiently reduce gross carbon emissions to prevent further climate change, J&N has developed a systematic approach to cut 8 billion tons of carbon per year. This stabilizing method will be divided into 8 sections of 1-ton carbon reducing strategies. In the first wedge, 1 ton of carbon emissions will be reduced using carbon capture and storage hydrogen for heating and transportation energy.
One positive is that the only emission produced by CCS hydrogen power is water vapor, making it desirable for low-carbon society.
One negative is that this process requires pure hydrogen gas, which is produced through processing that uses energy and creates carbon emissions. As long as this carbon is captured, hydrogen energy will become ideal.
The second wedge is filled by nuclear energy, which uses uranium and other radioactive elements bombarded by neutrons to produce high amounts of capturable energy.
A positive is that through the process of nuclear fission, high amounts of energy are produced with no carbon emissions.
One negative is that highly radioactive materials must be discarded and nuclear meltdowns are an extreme risk. Also, plants must be by water sources for cool water to cool reactors.
Transportation makes up a large percentage of carbon emissions. If cars were able to increase efficiency from 30 miles per gallon to 60 miles per gallon, 1 billion tons of carbon could be reduced from the footprint. This will require lighter cars and complex engines with innovative, smaller systems.
In order to sustainably live on this planet, humans will have to consider the rising population and the demand for wood to build houses. If another material could be used, natural forests, CO2 sinks could be preserved and expanded to remove atmospheric carbon. This requires a lot of force.
If the world relied more on electronic mass transit systems instead of cars, especially in high-traffic cities, a wedge would be achieved. Transport conservation occupies the fifth wedge and would promote growth in public transportation, including jobs.
In the sixth wedge, soil storage was chosen in consideration of the world population. For this demand of agriculture, the planet must maximize crop yield without destroying ground minerals and CO2 holding ability for the carbon cycle to continue. Sustainable methods of farming could be achieved in one wedge.
Coal power plants will eventually decrease in amount but are extremely productive at producing dirty electricity. Another 1 billion tons of carbon could be removed through doubled efficiency of these plants, cutting emissions in half while still in use.
In the final wedge, building efficiency was chosen because it's one of the simplest ways of reducing emissions, with a demand for a reduction of only 25% from existing residential and commercial emissions. This could easily be accomplished by using strategies like wall insulation and solar design and window lighting instead of electric lighting.
We gave each specific group a score from 1 through 5 depending on its need for strategies to be implemented. Energy companies would give us a 1 because they would have to use more money to make sure these programs are being run properly. Taxpayers and consumers could give us a 2 because taxes will have to be increased to implement new facilities needed to carry out these strategies. Manufacturers will give us a 3 because they will be paying less for the efficient energy, but will also need to make major changes in their companies.
Industrialized countries' governments will give us a 4 because they have the money to run these programs and become more efficient. On the other hand, developing country governments would give us a 2 because they cannot afford to implement these strategies, especially CCS hydrogen. Finally, environmental groups would give us a 5 because we are working to make the environment a cleaner and safer place.